The edge of the solar system was quiet, as it had been for billions of years. Far beyond Neptune, past the swirling ice and rock of the Kuiper Belt, space stretched empty and dark. Only the faint light of distant stars broke the endless black. But on this day, something changed. Deep inside a small monitoring station orbiting near Pluto, alarms began to scream. Lieutenant Mara Chun jerked upright in her chair, coffee spilling across her console. Her eyes darted across the screens. Energy readings were spiking off the scale. Something massive had just appeared out of nowhere, right at the edge of sensor range. "Command, this is Pluto Outpost Theta," she said, voice tight but steady. "We've got an unidentified object. No signature match. It just popped into existence. Back on Earth, in the Unified Defense Command bunker buried beneath the Swiss Alps." General Elias Rourke listened with growing concern. He had seen war. He had seen disasters. But nothing like this. "Size estimate?" he asked. Mara's voice crackled over the secure line. "Initial scan suggests over 80 kilometers long, sir." Rourke froze. 80 kilometers. The largest human-made ship, the orbital carrier Odyssey, was barely 3 kilometers long. This thing was a city in space. Is it moving? Slow drift toward inner system. No weapons charged. No comms. Just sitting there. Rourke exhaled slowly. "Keep watching. Don't provoke it." But someone else had already decided to act. 3 days later, the UN's Odyssey, humanity's newest and proudest deep space frigate, slipped out of lunar orbit. On board, Captain Daniel Reyes stood on the bridge, arms crossed, staring at the main view screen. The image showed a dark, jagged silhouette against the starfield. It looked like a mountain carved into teeth. "Still no response to hails," said Lieutenant Aris, the comms officer. "Not in any known language, math sequence, or universal signal." Reyes nodded. "Try the peace protocol. Send the greeting package, music, images, the declaration of human unity. Everything." The Odyssey pulsed a gentle burst of data toward the alien vessel. For a full hour, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the alien ship lit up. Not with lights. With weapons. A beam of searing violet energy lanced out from its prow. It struck the Odyssey like a hammer. Shields flared and collapsed in less than a second. The hull split open like a tin can. Oxygen, metal, and bodies were sucked into the void. The ship exploded in a silent bloom of fire that faded almost instantly in the cold vacuum. On Earth, the signal from the Odyssey cut off mid-transmission. In the UDC bunker, Rourke slammed his fist on the table. "They fired on us. Without warning. Without reason." Across the globe, leaders were awakened. Emergency protocols, long considered theoretical, were activated. Cities went dark. Satellites armed. Missile silos opened. Humanity had spent centuries fighting itself, but now, for the first time, it faced an enemy from beyond the stars, and that enemy had already killed them. Unknown to Earth, far out in interstellar space, a silent drone shaped like a silver leaf recorded everything. It belonged to the Galactic Concord, a council of 14 advanced species that govern known space. The drone had been watching Sol for centuries, part of a quiet quarantine ordered long ago. Now, its logs updated. Civilization. Sol 3 human. Status. Quarantine breach. Threat level. Re-evaluate. The drone transmitted its data at faster than light speeds. Within hours, the message reached the Concord's capital station. Orbital Spire Zeta, a city-sized ring floating near a quiet blue star. Council chambers buzzed with confusion. "They destroyed a primitive scout vessel?" asked the gelatinous Vorthan delegate, its voice bubbling through a translator. "They shouldn't even have ships that large," muttered the insectoid Kaler, clicking its mandibles. Sol 3 was classified Tier 0, pre-warp, barely post-industrial. Yet, they'd built that. Sud Elder Vales, a tall, pale being with silver eyes, pointing to the hologram of the alien warship. That is a Xylos Dominator class supremacy, one of the most feared vessels in the outer reaches. The room fell silent. The Xylos Imperium doesn't patrol this sector, said a young advisor. Why are they here? Vales narrowed his eyes. Unless they think this system is empty, or theirs by right. But something else worried him more. The human ship, the small one, had tried to communicate. It hadn't fired. It had reached out with hope. And it had been erased. Back on Earth, Rourke stood before the World Security Council. Every nation's leader watched him on screens, faces pale with fear. We don't know what they want, Rourke said. But we know what they did. They killed 2,400 people without a word. If they think we're weak, they'll come again. If they think we're prey, they'll bring more ships. He paused. We must assume invasion is coming. Then, from the back of the room, a quiet voice spoke. What if we're not as weak as they think? All eyes turned to Dr. Lena Petrov, head of the Black Vault Project, a classified initiative buried so deep even most generals didn't know it existed. Rourke's eyes widened. Is it ready? Petrov nodded. The Leviathan. It's been ready for 6 months. We just hoped we'd never need it. Murmurs filled the room. The Orc cloud construction? Someone whispered. Yes, Petrov said. 98 kilometers long. Powered by quantum fusion cores. Armed with relativistic kill vehicles, drone swarms, and adaptive armor. It's not just a ship. It's a statement. Rourke turned to the council. Then we make our statement. High above Earth, hidden in the icy darkness of the Orc cloud, something stirred. Metal groaned as colossal docking clamps released. Solar collectors folded inward. Engines, cold for years, began to hum with building power. Lights flickered to life across a hull so vast it cast a shadow over comets. The UN's Leviathan, humanity's secret. Its last hope, its silent giant awoke. On the bridge. Captain Anya Torres, handpicked by Petrov herself, gripped her chair as artificial gravity stabilized. Status? She asked. All systems green, replied her AI, named Hephaestus. Weapons online. Navigation locked on Xylos vessel. Estimated intercept in 12 hours. Torres stared at the star map. One blip enemy. One blip them. Tell Earth, she said softly, that the hunters just became the hunted. The Xylos warship drifted closer to Jupiter, scanning the inner planets. To its crew, Sol was just another system to claim. Its lifeforms were irrelevant. No FTL, no energy shields, no presence in galactic records. They were less than insects. The captain of the supremacy, Warlord Krell, sipped his nutrient broth and ordered his science officer to begin terraforming assessments. Earth's atmosphere looked pleasant. He never saw the shadow falling over his ship. He never heard the Leviathan's railguns charging. He only felt the impact, the first relativistic rod punching through his command deck at near light speed before his ship tore itself. Apart from the inside-out. On Earth, billions held their breath. Then, the message came through. Target neutralized. No human casualties. Rourke allowed himself a single, grim smile. But in the Concord chamber, Elder Vales watched the replay in horror. The human ship hadn't just destroyed the Xylos vessel. It had dissected it mid-combat and swarming over the wreckage, breaking it down atom by atom. They're not defending themselves, Vales whispered. They're learning. And in the silence that followed, every alien delegate realized the same terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't the prey. They were the storm. The wreckage of the Xylos warship drifted in pieces near Jupiter. glowing faintly from the heat of its sudden death. But it did not stay still for long. Tiny machines, no bigger than grains of sand, swarmed over the broken hull. They moved like silver mist, eating metal, circuits, and alien crystal alike. Every part was being taken apart, studied, and stored. Back on Earth, scientists watched in awe. The nanite clouds, launched from the Leviathan, were doing more than just cleaning up. They were learning. Every broken piece told a story: how the Xylos built shields, how they bent space, how their weapons worked. And Earth's eye, Hephaestus, was listening. But while humans celebrated their first victory, far away on the Galactic Concorde's capital station, panic was spreading. Elder Vales stood alone in the observation dome, staring at the live feed from the Sol system. The human warship, Leviathan, had vanished again into deep space. But its message was clear: mess with Earth, and you disappear. How? Whispered Counselor Morel, a small avian species with bright blue feathers. How did a Tier 0 world build a colossal class dreadnought? Our archives say they only discovered fusion power 80 years ago. Vales didn't answer. He knew the truth, but it was a secret buried under layers of ancient law. Long ago, a race called the Keepers had placed a quiet watch on Sol. They believed humanity held a dangerous spark, too clever, too stubborn, too willing to burn the sky to save one child. So they sealed the system away, hiding it behind false star maps and memory wipes. The quarantine was meant to last 10,000 years. Got it lasted only 6. Now. The spark had become a flame. On Earth, the United Defense Command was not celebrating for long. General Rourke stood in front of a massive screen showing the Leviathan's battle logs. That ship fired once, he said to his staff. One shot. And it took down a warship the size of a small moon. But what if they send more? Dr. Petrov nodded. They will. The Xylos don't forgive losses. They erase them. Then we prepare, Rourke said. Across the planet, hidden factories deep underground began to hum. In orbit, massive construction arms unfolded from dormant stations near Saturn. Raw materials mined from asteroids, moons, and dead comets flowed like rivers into new shipyards. Humanity had spent decades preparing for war with itself. Now, that same machinery turned outward. 3 new colossal class hulls began to take shape. But the real surprise wasn't just the ships. It was what powered them. Deep beneath Antarctica, in a cavern sealed since the Cold War, a team of engineers activated the quantum forge, device built from stolen dreams and forbidden physics. It didn't just create energy. It borrowed it from parallel realities, weaving threads of possibility into raw power. With it, Earth could run entire cities on a single spark. And now, it would power warships that could punch holes in stars. Meanwhile, the Galactic Concorde held an emergency session. 14 species argued in 14 different tongues, all translated by soft-voiced machines. The humans must be contained, shouted the Kalar envoy, its carapace clacking in anger. They broke the prime silence. They built a weapon that ignores galactic law. The Xylos attacked first, countered a soft-spoken plant being from all those. And without warning. Maybe the humans were right to fight back. But look at what they did after, cried the Vorthan delegate, its gelatinous form trembling. They didn't just win. They took the enemy apart while it was still burning. That's not defense, that's hunger. Elder Vales finally stepped forward. We don't understand them, he said quietly. And that is our greatest danger. He ordered a new plan. Not war. Not yet. Observation and contact. A neutral ship, the Ark of Parley, white and unarmed, was dispatched to Sol. It carried diplomats, scientists, and one very nervous translator. Their mission: speak to humanity. Learn who they really were. Captain Anya Torres stood on the bridge of the Leviathan as the alien ship approached. It was small, peaceful-looking, with no weapons. Still, she kept her ship on high alert. "Hail them," she said. A voice crackled over the com, careful, speaking basic English with a strange accent. "This is Envoy Vales of the Galactic Concord. We come in peace. We wish to understand." Torres exchanged glances with her first officer. "Understand what?" "Why you built a ship like this," Vales said. "Why you fight like ghosts. Why your species so young, so alone, frightens the oldest empires in the galaxy." Torres almost laughed. "We didn't build this ship to frighten anyone. We built it because we were tired of being afraid." She opened a channel to Earth. Minutes later, Admiral Alira Cho appeared on the view screen. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and gray-streaked hair. She wore a simple uniform, no medals. "Envoy Vales," she said. "You watched us get attacked. You saw our ship destroyed. You said nothing. Now you come asking questions?" Vales bowed his head slightly. "We were wrong to stay silent. But we also did not know you existed until hours ago. Our records were altered." Admiral Cho studied him. "Then ask your questions. But know this, we don't lie. And we don't forget." Over the next few days, the Ark of Parley floated near the Leviathan, exchanging data, language samples, and history logs. The humans shared music, poetry, photos of children playing in rain, old war footage, moon landings, and medical breakthroughs. The aliens shared star maps, laws of physics, and records of ancient battles. But one thing shocked the Concord delegation most of all. Humanity had no central ruler, no hive mind, no single belief. Earth was a planet of 7 billion individuals, arguing, creating, fighting, healing, loving all at once. And somehow, in the face of total annihilation, they had united in days. How? Asked a young Cathari aide. "How do you agree on anything?" Admiral Cho smiled faintly. "We don't. But when the sky falls, we all look up together." Back on Earth, people watched the alien ship on news feeds. No one panicked. No one rioted. Instead, schools held lessons on alien biology. Artists painted murals of the White Ark. Children sent messages. "Do you have dogs? What's your sky like? Are you scared too?" The aliens were stunned. They expected fear. They got curiosity, but not all was calm. Deep in Xylo space, Warlord Krell's death had not gone unnoticed. His fleet commander, High Imperator Zarth, stared at the void where the supremacy had vanished. He activated the blood beacon, a signal that meant one thing: vengeance. "Send the Iron Maw," he ordered. "And the Silent Fang, and the Eye of Ruin. Tell every warship within 50 sectors gather at Sol. Burn their world clean." 300 warships began to move. On the Leviathan, Hephaestus detected the first energy surges. "Enemy fleet forming," the AI said. Estimated arrival, 14 days. Captain Torres didn't flinch. "Then we have work to do." Back on Earth, factories ran nonstop. Engineers slept in shifts. Farmers sent extra food to space docks. Students volunteered to decode alien signals. Even old enemies nations that once pointed missiles at each other now shared tech, fuel, and hope. Because now, they all had the same enemy. And the same home. Elder Vales watched the human broadcasts with growing awe. These were not monsters. They were survivors, builders, dreamers who carried hammers and shields in the same hand. He turned to his aide. "Send a message to all Concord worlds. Tell them the truth." "What truth?" The aide asked. "That the quarantine has failed," Vales said. "And that humanity was never the danger. They were the cure." But even as he spoke, he knew the real test was coming. The Xylos fleet would arrive soon. And this time, Earth would not face one ship. It would face an armada, and the galaxy would watch to see if the storm could hold the sky. The news spread fast across Earth. 300 alien warships were coming. Not in months, not in weeks, in days. They moved like a black tide through the void, engines burning with hate, weapons charged with fire from dead stars. But on Earth, people did not hide. They did not scream. They worked out in shipyards orbiting Mars. Welders in magnetic boots sealed the final plates on the Uns Eris, the second colossal-class warship. Its sister, the Uns Valkyrie, floated near Neptune, testing its gravity lance. And deep in the Oort cloud, the third Uns Prometheus began to power up, its core humming like a sleeping god. Down on the surface, cities ran on half-light. Power was saved for the defense grid. Schools taught emergency drills alongside math. Farmers grew extra crops, not for markets, but for orbital food processors. Retired engineers came out of homes to help rebuild shield algorithms. Even children folded paper stars and sent them up on supply shuttles, tiny wishes taped to steel and fire. Humanity had spent centuries tearing itself apart. Now, it was stitching itself back together, one bolt, one line of code, one shared breath at a time. Far away, aboard the Ark of Parley, Elder Vales watched it all with growing wonder. They're not just preparing for war, he told his aide. They're preparing to live through it. His aide, a young Cathari named Jory, shook her head. But they can't win. The Xylos armada outnumbers them 100 to 1. Their weapons can crack planets open. Vales stared at the live feed from Earth. A woman in Mumbai was teaching her neighbors how to build signal jammers from old phones. In Oslo, teenagers were coding fake sensor ghosts to confuse incoming missiles. In Nairobi, a factory that once made shoes now made drone parts. Numbers don't always decide wars, Vales said softly. Sometimes it's the will inside the numbers. He turned to the comms officer. Send a message to all Concord worlds. Tell them to watch Seoul, not as judges, as students. Back on Earth, Admiral Alara Cho stood on the observation deck of the Unified Defense Command. Below her, holograms showed the Xylos fleet's path. They would reach the edge of the solar system in 6 days. Are we ready? General Rourke asked, stepping beside her. As ready as we'll ever be, she said. The Leviathan is armed. The Dyson Swarm is online. The chronomines are deployed. The Dyson Swarm, once a dream project to harvest solar energy, had been turned into a weapon. Millions of mirrored satellites now orbited the sun, linked by quantum threads. Together, they could focus the sun's full power into a single beam of light, hot enough to vaporize steel in seconds. And the chronomines? They were humanity's strangest invention yet. Tiny devices that bent time itself. Not to travel through it, but to slow it down. A ship caught in one would age centuries in minutes, its metal rusting, its crew turning to dust before they knew they were dead. We're not fighting ships, Cho said. We're fighting time, light, and fear. Rourke nodded. Let's hope it's enough. The Xylos didn't expect a fight. They expected a slaughter. High Imperator Zorath sat on his command throne aboard the Iron Maw, the largest ship in the fleet. He had crushed rebellions, burned colonies, and erased entire species that dared to resist. To him, Sol was just another name to add to his list. Scan the system, he ordered. His science officer obeyed. Sir, there are 3 massive energy signatures, all near planetary orbits. And the sun. It's surrounded by structures. Zorath frowned. Primitive solar collectors. Useless. They're moving, sir. Aligning. Then ignore them. Target the 3rd planet. Glass it from orbit. Leave no stone standing. The fleet changed course, aiming for Earth. But as they crossed the orbit of Uranus, the first mine activated. It wasn't loud. It didn't explode. It just pulsed. The Silent Fang, a swift attack cruiser, entered the field. Instantly, its hull groaned. Cracks spread like spiderwebs. Crew members screamed as their skin wrinkled. Their hair turned white. Their bones grew brittle. In 30 seconds, the ship was a dead husk floating, ancient, empty. What was that? Zorath roared. Unknown energy field. The science officer whispered, trembling. It speeds up local time. Zorath's eyes narrowed. Then go around it. But the mines weren't in one place. They were everywhere, hidden in asteroid belts, tucked behind moons, drifting in comet trails. And Earth's drones were laying more every hour. On the Leviathan, Captain Torres watched the enemy slow down, confused. Scattering. Now, she said. The Dyson swarm fired. A beam of pure sunlight focused. Amplified, white-hot lanced across the solar system. It struck the Eye of Ruin, a command vessel the size of a small city. The ship didn't explode. It melted. Metal turned to liquid, then to gas, then to nothing. 1 second, it was there. The next, only a cloud of glowing atoms remained. Panic spread through the Xylos fleet. They're using their star as a weapon. A commander screamed. Zorath slammed his fist. Deploy shield harmonics. Fire all plasma cannons at Earth. But Earth was ready. The Ares and Valkyrie jumped into position near Jupiter, launching drone swarms, billions of tiny machines that clung to enemy hulls, eating through armor, frying circuits, and sending false signals. Some Xylos ships turned their weapons on each other, tricked by illusions. The Leviathan then fired its relativistic rods, tungsten spears, accelerated to near light speed. One hit the Iron Maw's engine core. The explosion lit up Saturn's rings like a second sun. 72 hours after the Xylos fleet entered the solar system. It was gone, not defeated, erased. Only wreckage remained spinning slowly in the dark, already being harvested by human nanites. On Earth, no one cheered. They were too tired, too sad, too aware that they had just killed thousands, maybe millions, of living beings. But they also knew, if they hadn't, Earth would be ash. Back on the Ark of Parley, Valles received the full battle data. He watched as the humans did not celebrate. Instead, medical ships moved in to search for survivors. Engineers began clearing debris to keep orbits safe. And Earth's leaders sent a message, not of victory, but of warning. To the Xylos, to the Concorde, to anyone who would listen. We do not seek war, Admiral Cho said in the broadcast. But we will not be prey. And we will not be silent. Then something even more shocking happened. Earth released the Xylos battle logs, decrypted, translated, and shared with every known species. The logs showed the truth. For centuries, the Xylos had been hunting pre-FTL civilizations, not conquering them, not studying them, killing them, wiping them out before they could threaten galactic order. The Concorde was stunned. Many of its members had lost worlds long ago, mysteriously, suddenly. Now they knew why. Valles called an emergency session, but this time he didn't speak as a diplomat. He spoke as a witness. The humans did not start this war, he said, voice shaking with emotion. They ended a much older one we were too blind or too afraid to see. Silence filled the chamber. Then, one by one, the delegates stood. Not in fear, in respect. That night, on a quiet beach in Chile, a boy named Mateo looked up at the stars. His grandfather sat beside him. Are they still out there? Mateo asked. The bad ones? Maybe, the old man said. But now they know something. What? That Earth is not alone. And it is not weak. Matteo smiled. Good. Above them, the sky was clear. And for the first time in human history, it felt like home. The silence after the battle was heavier than the explosions that came before it. In the void between Mars and Jupiter, chunks of alien metal floated like tombstones. No signals. No life signs. Just cold, broken steel and the quiet hum of human cleanup drones. On Earth, people did not celebrate. They mourned. Not for the enemy, but for what they had become. They had built beautiful things. Music, bridges, stories about love and stars. And now, they had also built weapons that could unmake time and fire beams hot enough to boil oceans. The weight of that knowledge settled on every city, every village, every heart. But there was no time to rest, because the galaxy had watched. And now, it was reacting. On the Galactic Concord's capital station, the mood had shifted. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with shame. Species that had once laughed at primitive Sol 3 now sat in silence. Some had lost worlds to the Xylos. They had accepted the official story. Natural disasters, solar flares, unstable cores. Now they knew the truth. And they owed humanity a debt. Elder Valey stood before the full council, his silver eyes tired but clear. We were wrong, he said. We thought peace meant silence. But silence lets monsters grow. Humanity did not break galactic law. They fixed it. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Kalar delegate, once loud and angry, now spoke softly. What do we do now? Valey's turned to the main screen, which showed Earth's 3 colossal-class ships orbiting peacefully. We listen. Back on Earth, Admiral Elira Cho sat alone in her office. The walls were bare, except for one photo. Her daughter, lost in a flood 10 years ago. She missed her every day. That loss was part of why she fought, not for glory. But so others wouldn't suffer like she had. A knock came at the door. Enter, she said. Captain Anya Torres stepped in. Still in her uniform, eyes shadowed with fatigue. The Concorde just sent a new message, she said. They want to talk. Not as judges. As equals. Cho raised an eyebrow. Equals? They say they're dissolving the old Concorde. They want to build something new. With us. Cho was silent for a long time. Then she said, ask them this. Do they accept that no species should be erased just because it's young? That power doesn't give you the right to decide who lives. Torres nodded. I'll send it. Meanwhile, in the ruins of the Xylos fleet, something strange happened. A single escape pod, small, damaged. Leaking air drifted near the wreckage of the Iron Maw. Inside, a young Xylos engineer named Kale clung to life. He had not fired a single shot. He had only worked the engines. When the battle began, his station was deep in the ship's belly. He survived by accident. Human rescue drones found him. They could have left him, or destroyed him. Instead, they gently towed his pod to a medical frigate. On board, human medics worked fast. They didn't speak his language, but they treated his burns, gave him oxygen, and played soft music to calm his panic. When Kale woke, he saw a human woman in a blue uniform. She handed him water. No weapons, no anger, just care. He wept. Later, through a translator, he whispered, why help me? I am your enemy. The medic shook her head. You were just a person on a ship. Like us. That moment was recorded, shared, and across the galaxy it spread like fire. The Xylos Imperium, now leaderless and shattered, sent no more fleets. But their empire was vast. Rumors said warlords were fighting each other for control. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted to flee. The truth was, they were afraid, because for the first time, they had met a species that did not break. Humanity had been hurt, and tested. And instead of falling, it had stood taller. On Mars, construction crews worked day and night. Not just on warships, but on something new. A ring-shaped station, built from recycled xylose metal and human steel. They called it Pact Station, named after the old word for peace. It would not be a weapon. It would be a meeting place. A school, a hospital, a bridge. Dr. Lena Petrov walked the half-built corridors, her boots echoing in the empty halls. She stopped at a window and looked out at Earth, blue and fragile in the distance. "We built monsters to survive," she whispered. "Now we must build gardens to live." Back on Earth, schools began teaching alien languages. Not to spy, but to understand. Artists painted murals showing humans and Cathari sharing food, Vorthans floating beside children in zero-G parks. Even old video games were updated. Now you could play as a human engineer teaming up with a killer pilot to solve space puzzles. The fear was still there, but it was being drowned out by curiosity. Elder Vales finally visited Earth. He stepped onto the surface near Geneva, where the new Soul Accord headquarters was being built. No soldiers met him. No weapons. Just Admiral Cho, standing alone under a clear sky. "You came," she said. "I had to see it myself," Vales replied. The place that changed everything. They walked together through a field of wildflowers. Bees buzzed. A dog barked in the distance. "You could have ruled the galaxy after your victory," Valley said. "You had the power." Cho shook her head. "Power isn't about ruling. It's about choice. We chose not to become what we fought." Valley stopped and looked at her. "My people have laws older than your species. But you taught us something we forgot. Peace isn't the absence of war. It's the presence of justice." Cho smiled faintly. "Then let's build that." That evening, the first charter of the Soul Accord was signed. Not in blood, not in fire, in ink on real paper, under real sunlight. 14 species joined that day. More would come, but the most important line was simple. No civilization shall be judged by its past, only by its actions. It was a promise, not just to others, but to themselves. Later that night, Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, now renamed Unspac's Edna Eternal Peace. The ship's weapons were still there, but its mission had changed. "New orders, Captain?" asked her first officer. Torres looked out at the stars. "Patrol the outer rim. Protect young worlds. Share what we've learned. And if anyone tries to hurt the innocent." She paused. Her voice was calm but firm. "Remind them what Earth stands for." Far beyond the solar system, near the edge of known space, a single Concorde scout ship picked up a faint signal. It wasn't Xylos. It wasn't human. It was older, much older. A pulse of energy that didn't match any known race. The scouts sent a warning, but this time, Earth didn't panic. They listened. They prepared. And they waited, because they were no longer hidden, no longer weak, no longer alone. They were humanity, and the galaxy now knew. When darkness came, Earth would be the light that stood against it. The sun rose over the red plains of Mars, casting long shadows across the half-built towers of New Ares City. Children ran between prefab homes, laughing as they chased floating drones shaped like birds. Nearby, a Cathari elder sat with a human teacher, both studying star charts on a shared screen. The Cathari's forefingers traced a spiral galaxy, while the human pointed to a small blue dot. "That's where I was born," she said. The elder tilted its head. "It looks so small." "It is," she replied with a smile. "But it's loud." And Earth was loud, not with war, but with life. Music poured from open windows. Markets buzzed with traders from 6 species. On every street corner, translation booths helped strangers say, "Hello, thank you," and "Can I try that?" in languages that didn't even exist 10 years ago. The Soul Accord had not brought perfect peace, but it had brought something better. Trust. High above Mars, the UNS Pax Eterna, once the terrifying Leviathan, drifted in silent orbit. Its weapons were powered down. Its drone bays now carried medical supplies, food, and seeds for new colonies. Captain Anya Torres stood on the observation deck, watching a supply shuttle glide toward the surface. "Still feels strange?" asked Admiral Cho over the comm. She was retired now, but still advised the Accord. Torres smiled. "A little. I spent years training to destroy. Now I train medics how to set bones in zero gravity." "That's victory," Cho said softly. "Not the killing. The healing after." Back on Earth, in a quiet park near Kyoto, a monument stood. It was made from the melted hull of the first Xylos warship, twisted metal shaped into a tree, its branches stretching toward the sky. At its base, a plaque read, "To those who fell in silence, may we never forget." Tourists came to see it. Students came to learn. And sometimes, old soldiers came to cry. But most of all, children came to climb it. One afternoon, a boy named Hiroshi scrambled up the lowest branch. His teacher, Ms. Lin, watched with amusement. "Careful," she called. "I'm fine," he shouted, grinning. "It's just metal." Ms. Lin walked over and placed a hand on the warm surface. "Not just metal," she said. "This used to be a ship that wanted to hurt us. But we took it, fixed it, and turned it into something that gives shade." Hiroshi looked up, eyes wide. "We can do that?" "We already did," she said. "And we'll do it again. Whenever the world gives us broken things, we build better ones." The boy nodded slowly, as if filing the lesson away for later. In deep space, far beyond the reach of any known star, the ancient signal grew stronger. It had been detected months ago, faint at first, like a whisper in a storm. Now it pulsed with clear rhythm. Not random, not natural. Intelligent. The Soul Accord Science Council met in secret. Data poured in from every listening post, from Mars to the edge of the Oort cloud. The signal wasn't coming from a ship. It was coming from a structure massive, ancient, built before Earth's oceans formed, and it was waking up. Fear stirred. Old memories of the Xylos attack returned. But this time, the reaction was different. Instead of arming fleets, the Accord sent scientists. Instead of hiding, they reached out. A research vessel, part human, part Cathari, part Vorthan, was launched. It carried no weapons, only sensors, translators, and a message recorded by children from 100 worlds. "We are here. Are you?" On Earth, people watched the mission unfold on public screens in parks and plazas. No panic, no rumors. Just quiet hope. Dr. Alina Petrov, now head of the Accord Science Directorate, stood in Geneva's Unity Hall, a dome built from glass and recycled warship alloy. She addressed a room full of young students from every member species. "Long ago," she said, "we thought the universe was full of monsters. And maybe it is. But we learned something important. Monsters only win if you act like prey." A small Vorthan child bubbled a question. "What if the new signal is a monster?" Petrov nodded. "Then we'll face it together. With eyes open, hearts ready, and hands not clenched into fists, but open to learn." The room was silent. Then, one by one, the children raised their hands, not in fear, but in promise. Elder Vales, now the Accord's first speaker of unity, walked the gardens of his new home on Luna. Moon trees grown from seeds, carried by the first astronauts, swayed in the low gravity. He often came here to think. A message arrived on his wristband. It was from Captain Torres. Signal responded. Not words. A song. Very old. Very sad. But also kind. Vales smiled. Even the oldest dark has stars in it. He whispered. He sent a reply. Keep listening. And keep believing. Back on Mars, Hiroshi sat with his new friend, a young Cathari named Tasha. They were building something out of scrap metal and solar wire. What is it? Tasha asked, clicking her mandibles in curiosity. A telescope, Hiroshi said. So we can see what's out there. Why? Because maybe they're watching us too, he said. And if they are, I want them to see someone waving, not shooting. Tasha thought for a moment. Then she added a polished lens from her own kit. Make it stronger, she said. They worked in silence as the Martian sun set, painting the sky in pink and gold. On Earth, night fell. Cities glowed, but not with the harsh light of war factories. With the soft glow of libraries, hospitals, and homes. In a small apartment in Lisbon, an old man played a violin by his window. The tune was old Beethoven, maybe, or something his grandfather taught him. It floated out into the cool air, joining the sounds of laughter, distant trains, and the hum of a peaceful world. High above, the Pact's Ethernet turned slowly, its lights blinking like a heartbeat. It was no longer a weapon. It was a promise. The galaxy had once feared humanity, not for its ships or its weapons, but for what it represented. A species that asked questions, that cried at sunsets, that buried its dead and then planted trees over their graves. A species that, when pushed to the edge, did not become cruel, but kinder, sharper, and wiser. They had faced extinction and chosen creation instead. Now, as the ancient signal grew clearer and new stars blinked awake in the dark, one truth remained. Earth did not fall. It rose, and it brought the galaxy with it.